Hey! So this is part 1 of our Live2D series, making the model. So here's a little thing to have a very clear picture of your model. Just take one picture, because we'll need that. It can be as blurry, it doesn't matter. And then you're going to go over to your hide section in Gacha Club. My cat is futzing around in the background, but that's okay. Sounds like the cat said sorry, I don't think you can hear that. But anyways, we're just hiding all the body parts so that we can have one thigh showing, one foot, one hand, one elbow. And then in the studio, we are going to expand it as large as possible so that we have a very clear, clean picture. Alright? And then you're going to do this with all the body parts, okay? So here, those are the screenshots I took. And now I'm just going to be selecting all the parts and erasing the background. As you can see, there won't be a white outline. I will make a tutorial on how to specifically get rid of the white outline in Ibis Paint 2 by controlling the bucket settings. But for now, yes. But for now, yes. Yes, nothing. So here we're just going to be erasing the background of everything. I'll just skip over that part so that you can see we have the head, we have the eyes, we have everything. So now we're going to make everything front facing. To make the head front facing, you cut the head in half. You also get rid of the ear. I didn't particularly need that ear since my ear is on a completely different layer. But anyways, you're then going to squish it till it's around the same size as your other head. Then you are going to flip it until, I'm not measuring it by where the top of the head touches, but this is where the chin touches. So where the chin touches, I then go over the top, clean that out, and you can see the head is very big. So I'm then using the distort tool and making it thinner until it reaches around the same diameter as you can see as the character in the background. Then I am going to mirror it so that I can have a nice long line in the middle. I just use that so I could see everything clearly. So because my character has these kind of ears, it's already on a separate layer. But if those ears are attached to your head still, you need to cut that off and have it separately. Also, left ear and right ear has to be on separate sides. So then here we have the eye, which I'm just seeing if the head is in the right proportion. And if it is, then it's like, okay, then I just need to make the head a little smaller. So it's okay. A lot of this, honestly, is just a lot of adjusting. That's what this is for me. It's a lot of adjusting since I'm not used to making front-facing gacha characters very often because I didn't do gacha for like 2 months. Now I'm just editing my eye to make it nice and clean. I wanted to get rid of the highlight because I'm going to make my own custom highlight. So then I'm going to just have a separate highlight of the nose, which I'm actually going to attach to the face because the goal of this is kind of have it as simple as possible. Yeah, because I just want to make everything the least layers possible because the least layers means less things to rig. But it still needs to be an even amount of things. An even amount of layers that are necessary. There's templates that you could follow online, by the way, which is where I also got this from. You can get it from the official Live2D site. So here we're separating the eye. To separate the eyes, you will need the eyebrow on a separate part. Then you will need the eyelashes on a separate part. Which, by the way, mind you, for the eyelashes, there are 2 parts, for this one at least. There's a side lash and there's a top lash. If you have a bottom lash, that's an extra layer. Then we have the white of the eye, which, as you can see here, I'm just filling in. And then we are going to have the pupil, so I'm going to erase the white on the other layer. So now I can only have the pupil. I'm going to have the PSD file of this probably maybe on Gumroad for like $1 or something if you want to access it. So you can do that if you want, if you'd like some more reference. Anyways, I'm just drawing to make the pupil more round. And here's the thing with the eyelashes, you want to make sure there's a little bit extra room, like they're overlapping each other a little bit. So, Right there, you see there's extra room, that darker part, it shows where they overlap. Make sure you bring everything back to 100% opacity, of course. Then I create the highlight on a separate layer. I like to create it on a separate layer. You don't have to, but I feel like it helps more, okay? It's just a proper thing to do. Then after we have the face, mostly, we are going to move on to the hair. So I'm just gonna flip out so then I could have the back hair, which the back hair is already pretty symmetrical. There isn't really any adjusting that I need to do, so back hair, easy. Then we have the front hair, which I am going to completely redo. So my hair, even though my OC is based off of something in Gacha Club, I then created and upgraded my OC with a custom hairstyle. So I'll have to duplicate that into this app. So make sure, this is for custom hair by the way, make sure you have a brush that's kind of like the monoline brush in Procreate. Basically, it's just one consistent size and it doesn't taper in the front or anything. Also, here's the thing with hair, is you can cut it up into as many pieces as you find necessary. But keep in mind, the more pieces of hair means the more you have to rig and stuff. But it will probably make your thing look higher quality. But I find it best to just keep things as simple as possible for Live2D, because the more things you have to create, the more things you have to distort, and it gives a lot more room and opportunity for mistakes, which we don't want to waste our time correcting, because this is Gacha. If you're in the Gacha community versus the art community, that means you should take full advantage of the advantages of Gacha, which is basically you don't have to draw the character, so that, you know, just take full advantage of it. So if you have a custom hairstyle, then, you know, good luck with that. But if you don't have a custom hairstyle, then you can just adjust it with what I like to use is the liquify pen, just to make things look more straightforward. But, you know, some people I see they just flat out put the front facing hair on. And now we have the rear hair, which I'm going to cut in half. Then I'm just trying to get rid of the bangs, so it's all completely just one layer. Now I'm going to erase the skin on that layer because we only want the face. So here's the thing about Live2D models is you have to fill in a lot of background voids. Like, you can't just think, oh, you know, the cheeks are covering the side hair, so I won't need to draw the side hair. For Live2D, you're going to have to draw everything so that if you move one thing aside, you can see something else. Okay? So I'm just duplicating the hair after cutting it in half. And that's so that I can get the tail hair. I call it the tail hair because I don't know what else to call it. I'm not going to call it the side hair because I already have a name for that. And then for the rear hair, I just cut off the tail hair and draw over it. Here's a little tip to make your lines look a little more natural when you're trying to fuse it with Gacha Club. Make sure it's the same exact thickness. The same exact thickness in a really clean, smooth line. So there we go. Now for the head, I'm just pushing it down because it's okay that the face looks a little distorted. The only thing that really matters is that the face is just out of the way. The top of the skin of the hair. So now I'm just going into customizing the side of my head. You don't have to do this if your character isn't customizable, but I decided to do this because my character, I can't really get the right look purely in Gacha Club since I created the character outside of Gacha Club. So if you're having any hard times with making the character look right, don't be afraid to just make them a custom OC. So I'm just duplicating the little hair layer and putting it on the side. I then decided to make earrings because once again, my OC is custom. It's important to get rid of the hair that's in the way of the ears so that I can completely see what I'm doing. As I said, just because right now the hair is covering something doesn't mean you shouldn't draw it. Okay, because like if the hair moves sideways, then the ears are going to be revealed, so we got to make sure that it looks good. Now I'm just duplicating the eye and just moving it aside. Now I'm just going to get the Ahoge, which I don't need to edit, I just need to put at the top of the head. I'm creating some extra layers from some extra things, which is the mouth. For the mouth, what we're going to do is we're going to create the back of the mouth, basically. So just pick a dark color like the one that I'm using. It could be red or purple. I like to move on to a little bit more of a purplish red, kind of like a velvet. And then for the teeth, which is just a big white blob at the top, which you can add little fangs if you want. I decided to because I feel like it gives the character a little more shape. And then you create the tongue, which it's okay if your mouth looks a little weird right now because the lips are going to kind of cover up everything. And we're going to clip the teeth and the tongue to the mouth anyway, so don't worry. The mouth can literally look however you want it to be, but, you know, I usually just like to create an outline for the mouth because I feel like it blends a lot better with Gacha. Then for the lip, I'm just creating a line, and then I duplicate that line, and first I want to adjust it to however I want. You gotta make sure the mouth looks good because the mouth is going to be a big part of everything, especially if you're doing face tracking, because then your mouth is gonna move around a lot. So now we're creating the lip, which is, by the way, pretty much the color of the skin. I decided to make it green first so that I could see that I'm covering everything. So, you know, you can also draw like lips if you want, but I kind of just wanted to keep it simple. And it's okay if like the tongue you see there is sticking out a little bit, because you can just adjust that in Live2D, but because it makes me uncomfortable now, I am going to just kind of shrink it up a little bit so that it's not in the way. Then we're moving on to the body, which grab your torso. My character is going to have 2 layers. They're going to have a jacket, then they're going to have a t-shirt underneath, kind of like a crop top t-shirt. So we're going to cut the torso in half. Or actually, another technique is you can just use the liquify pen to make things a little more facing forward. Then you can go over and draw over everything. What some people do is they just cut it in half, kind of like what I did with the head, and then adjust it later on. What I like to do is I like to just use the liquify pen and just keep it looking straightforward. The less editing and drawing I have to do, the better, because once again, taking full advantage of Gacha it's extremely time-saving, and it's just a beautiful thing that I don't need to draw everything from scratch. Okay, this is, I don't know, ever since I joined the Gacha community again, I really haven't been experiencing a lot of burnt out because it's just so much easier for me. So then I create the little strap. This is all on the same layer since the strap won't move individually from the body, so it's unnecessary. So I'm just doing some more adjustments. You're gonna have to do a lot of adjusting, I think. And then here for boobs. If your character has boobs, you need to draw it separately from the torso. The first time I discovered this was very groundbreaking for me. So basically, you're just gonna make kind of like a boobish shape, and then it's gonna be the same color as the shirt, and then it's gonna kind of be like slightly outlined, like just the sides and a bit of the bottom, so it kind of looks like that. They look a little saggy, so I'm gonna put it at the top. And there. Gacha characters look a little weird with boobs, honestly. Then for the jacket, I am going to get half of the jacket and apply it to the character. I'm also going to have that little drawing in the back, which the important thing about that screenshot is it shows you if all your things are proportionate. So now I'm just using the liquify pen to adjust the jacket to make it look a little more face forward. Then I duplicate the jacket because there's a collar and then there's the jacket part. So both those are going to be separate because they're going to move individually. After some time, it might take you a while, but keep in mind, your first gacha model is going to have a lot of flaws, no matter how many tutorials you watch, because there's just some things that you need to learn from experience. Okay? So that's basically our jacket. Then I flip it over. And I think that maybe the character is looking a little thicker than I want it to, so I can always just adjust and squeeze the jacket a little more. Then with the tail, I just drew the tail because it's easier that way. And for the shoulders and the legs and everything, that's much easier because you just align it with a screenshot in the background. So it's much, much easier than the rest of the body because that one doesn't take any editing. So just taking the hand and squeezing it into there. I'm not going to have adjustable hands that kind of change into like a pointing finger or peace sign because I don't have a use for that since the main focus is on the face of the character. Though if you do want a character that moves hands and stuff, then there are some other tutorials for hand switching that you can check out. Anyways, I'm moving everything behind the torso and behind the jacket. Which, by the way, because my character has a jacket on-off, that also means that I have 2 layers of arms, which isn't completely necessary to show or really explain if your character won't have more than one piece. So also for the torso, I got the colors wrong, so I decided to adjust the colors real quick. Oops. Then I just made sure to erase the top part of the jacket so that I can feel like everything's a little more attached. Which I only had to do to one side, then I could just duplicate and flip. How many years of work duplicate and flip saved me? It's beautiful. Now, the only other part that you'd have to adjust probably is the shoe, which a lot of people, they can just leave it kind of inverted. But if you don't want to leave your shoe inverted, then you have 2 options depending how complicated the shoe design is. Of course, I want to adjust the thigh first. For the character, I kind of made the legs have a little bit more shape, just like going a little thinner. So your 2 options is to either use the liquify pen to make it look a little more front forward facing, but because this is a bit more of a complicated shoe design, I only moved it front forward as a guide. And now I'll have to erase the shoe pretty much and redraw over it to kind of create a front-facing kind of look. So this is already a little easy for me since I know how to draw. And if you don't know how to draw or don't know how to do this step, then you can skip it if you want. Also, if you're doing a total front-facing character and you want to use this for like VTubing or something, which by the way, I don't mean to brag or anything, but I think that I am the first gacha VTuber. Like, look at me. Have you seen anyone else do face tracking and like talk with it and use it like not as just a test, but like as an actual thing that they're going to use for their channel forever? Have you seen that? I don't think so. It would crush my dreams if someone said, yeah, so-and-so did that. Like, I know nobody did that, okay? Let me live my sweet fantasy. So I'm just redrawing the shoe. It looks a little unnatural, but honestly, I don't really care if the shoe looks a little bit off because the shoe isn't that important since the main focus, once again, is the face. Once again, I'm using the adjusting brush to change the shape of the foot and such. This is more of a stylistic choice since I kind of like to make the legs have a bit more of shape that follows less of chibi logic and more of anime logic, yeah. Now we can see that the thighs are touching, meaning they're a little too thick because I don't want the legs to obviously overlay. So now that's just some more adjusting. And I just skipped over a lot of things because that was just adjusting, and now I have a new layer on top of everything that's on an overlay layer, and now I'm just coloring over it to kind of see like, alright, so it looks nice. And then I'm going to clip that layer and duplicate it multiple times and then merge it down. You need to clip it to each individual layer. So this is a really long, boring, tedious process, but I'm going to constantly take that overlay layer and constantly clip it to each piece again and again and again. And I'm just going to do that to everything. Then I moved everything into folders and I made sure to name absolutely everything. Have a good look at my layer setup. Yeah. And once again, if this isn't very clear for you, you can always get the PSD file on Gumroad, which is linked in the description. It's just for like $1. So carrying on, these are basically all the settings that I have and all the layers. Make sure you name everything. The first time I made a model, I didn't name the layers and it was a pain. It was really a pain in Live2D when I had to select certain things. Okay, listen to me. It might be boring, but you'll have to name every single layer. Then you just share it as a PSD file. What a PSD file does versus a PNG, it saves each individual layer. So when you import into a program, it saves the history of all those layers. Anyways, join for part 2, where I will show you how to actually begin rigging